The Necessity of Religion, Part 2. But by this time the search had begun, and the search was inward, and man continued inquiring more deeply into the different stages of the mind and discovered higher states than either the waking or the dreaming. This state of things we find in all the organized religions of the world, called either ecstasy or inspiration. In all organized religions, their founders, prophets, and messengers are declared to have gone into states of mind that were neither waking nor sleeping, in which they came face to face with a new series of facts relating to what is called the spiritual kingdom. They realize things there much more intensely than we realize facts around us in our waking state. Take, for instance, the religions of the Brahmins. The Vedas are said to be written by rishis. These rishis were sages who realized certain facts. The exact definition of the Sanskrit word rishi is the seer of mantras, of the thoughts conveyed in the Vedic hymns. These men declared that they had realized, sensed, if that word can be used with regard to the supersensuous, certain facts, and these facts they proceeded to put on record. We find the same truth declared amongst both the Jews and the Christians. Some exceptions may be taken in the case of the Buddhists as represented by the southern section. It may be asked, if the Buddhists do not believe in any god or soul, how can their religion be derived from a supersensuous state of existence? The answer to this is that even the Buddhists find an eternal moral law, and that moral law was not reasoned out in our sense of the word. But Buddha found it, discovered it in a supersensuous state. Those of you who have studied the life of Buddha, even as briefly given in that beautiful poem, The Light of Asia, may remember that Buddha is represented as sitting under the bo tree until he reached that supersensuous state of mind. All his teachings came through this, and not through intellectual cogitations. Thus, a tremendous statement is made by all religions that the human mind at certain moments transcends not only the limitations of the senses but also the power of reasoning. It then comes face to face with facts which it could never have sensed, could never have reasoned out. These facts are the basis of all the religions of the world. Of course, we have the right to challenge these facts, to put them to the test of reason. Nevertheless, all the existing religions of the world claim for the human mind this peculiar power of transcending the limits of the senses and the limits of reason, and this power they put forward as the statement of fact. Apart from the consideration of the question how far these facts claimed by religions are true, we find one characteristic common to them all. They are all abstractions as contrasted with the concrete discoveries of physics, for instance, and in all the highly organized religions, they take the purest form of unit abstraction, either in the form of an abstracted presence as an omnipresent being, as an abstract personality called God, as a moral law, or in the form of an abstract essence underlying every existence. In modern times, too, the attempts made to preach religions without appealing to the supersensuous state of mind have had to be taken up the old abstractions of the ancient and give different names to them as moral law, the ideal unity, and so forth, thus showing that these abstractions are not in the senses. None of us have yet seen an ideal human being, and yet we are told to believe in it. None of us have yet seen an ideally perfect man, and yet without that ideal we cannot progress. Thus, this one fact stands out from all these different religions, that there is an ideal unit abstraction which is put before us either in the form of a person or an impersonal being, or a law or a presence or an essence. We are always struggling to raise ourselves up to that ideal. Every human being, whosoever and wheresoever he may be, has an ideal of infinite power. Every human being has an ideal of infinite pleasure. Most of the works that we find around us, the activities displayed everywhere, are due to the struggle for this infinite power or this infinite pleasure. But a few quickly discover that although they are struggling for infinite power, it is not through the senses that it can be reached. They find out very soon that an infinite pleasure is not to be got through the senses, or in other words, the senses are too limited, and the body is too limited to express the infinite. To manifest the infinite through the finite is impossible, and sooner or later man learns to give up the attempt to express the infinite through the finite. This giving up, this renunciation of the attempt is the background of ethics. Renunciation is the very basis upon which ethics stand. There never was an ethical code preached which had not renunciation for its basis. Ethics always say not I but thou. Its motto is not self but non self. The vain ideas of individualism to which man clings when he is trying to find that infinite power or that infinite pleasure through the senses have to be given up, say the laws of ethics. You have to put yourself last and others before you. The senses say myself first. Ethics say I must hold on to myself last. Thus, all codes of ethics are based upon this renunciation, destruction, not construction, of the individual on the material plane. That infinite will never find expression upon the material plane, nor is it possible or thinkable.